Hi everyone, this is Elizabeth at craftsbyhappystamper.com. Thanks for joining me today. Hopefully you clicked on this link from my blog, and if not, then you can click on the blog link that's in the description of this YouTube, and you'll see that this is actually part of an OSAT blog hub featuring spring flowers. So you should definitely go check it out and check everybody else out. This is the card we'll be doing. I'm showcasing the bouquet technique, and you can see that my butterfly is all glittery, and I will show you how to make those silver pearls in just a bit. So first we start out with, oh, before I forget, this is a technique reference card. This is what my technique class makes at the beginning of each session for each different technique that we learn, and that one has a pocket with the template. So this part of the video I sped up so that you didn't have to see the laborious process of me sponging this Whisper White cardstock. It's actually not that laborious. It's just boring to watch, I think. And the three colors I use here are Crisp Cantaloupe, So Saffron, and Soft Sky, but I like them to be a little bit darker, so I go over it quite a few times in order to get the darkness that I want, which is why I sped it up so that you didn't have to watch that. I also like to make sure that I overlap each color a little bit so that you get a little bit of blending and it's not an obvious streak across the Whisper White cardstock. Now you'll see that I'm taking the window sheet that I punched 3 holes in, and I used a 1-inch punch, a 7/8 inch punch, and a 1/2 inch punch. And I'm using a sponge dauber to put some of the craft Whisper White ink on it. Now this craft ink is a pigment ink, so it dries pretty slowly, so you need to be somewhat careful that you're that you don't touch it too much because it will smear. But even if it does smear with this technique, it still looks really good. So it's not that big of a deal. But you'll notice that I started out in one side of the Whisper White cardstock and I tried to move it away and not overlap too much. One of the cool things you can do with this technique is that you can do some a little bit lighter than others and add a little, and that adds just a little bit more depth to the background when you have some that are pretty dark and some that are pretty light. So I set that to the side because it takes a while to dry. You could actually speed it up by using your heat tool. And I decided to go ahead and put a little crisp cantaloupe fern on the inside. I am not going to have an inside sentiment because I actually like a lot of area to write, but I like it to have some little design. So I just put a crisp cantaloupe fern on the right side of the inside Whisper White piece. And you could see that I messed up on the first time I did it. I thought it was too dark, so I stamped off before I did it a second time for what will actually be what people see on the insert. And I'm just using liquid glue to put it on the inside. I like liquid glue a lot better than tape just because it gives you a second to wiggle it around and make sure it's exactly where you want it, whereas tape isn't as forgiving. So here I'm showing you how to make the silver pearls. So I just took the traditional pearls that Stampin' Up! Sells, which are white, and I just dunked them in the Versamark pad. I squished them down there. And now, I mean, it's not pretty, but it comes out pretty. So now I'm going to dunk them in some Stampin' Up! Silver embossing powder. And I like these little cases. I think it's easier than dunking it or pouring them from the little bottles. So I'm using tweezers to get the silver embossing powder. I thought I was going to need my spoon, but I didn't need it. I just dunked it. And then I heated it off camera to melt it, and it turns really bright and shiny. The other thing I did was that I used my Big Shot and the butterfly thinlits to cut out this pretty butterfly from basic gray cardstock. And now I'm just kind of squishing it with my hands on top of the pad to get some Versamark on it. And then I'm going to add embossing powder to it. But if you noticed at the beginning, the butterfly just had some subtle shine, some subtle glitter, and it wasn't very overpowering. So the way I did that, which unfortunately you can't see because it's off screen right now, but I used um, a 3-to-1 ratio of clear embossing powder to iridescent ice. So I just did 3 scoops of clear embossing powder and 1 scoop of iridescent ice and mixed it together. So the whole thing is actually embossed, but there's just a lot less glitter than if you did iridescent ice by itself. So, and then obviously I have to move it around to do each of the sides. You could probably emboss the paper before you do the cutout, but I didn't do that. So this is what you get, being careful. And then you have to heat it to melt it, and then you get the clear look, which in a second, when I put things away, I will go off camera to heat it so that you don't have to watch that. All right, now it's done. It does make the basic gray cardstock a little bit darker, but gives it a nice shine that I really like. I like a little bit of shine on my stuff, on my cards. So now I'm just seeing how it looks on the card, and I'm getting ready to add sequins. So these are the new Bermuda Bay sequin trim from Stampin' Up, and I want it to kind of hang freely in it, so I cut a bunch, and then I'm just going to put one glue dot on in the middle to stick it to the back of the butterfly, and then I'll put another glue dot on the other side to stick the butterfly to the cardstock. And if you noticed in the card I showed you at the beginning, I had a few free floating sequins around the sides, so that is why I pulled off a few there. They're easy to pull off. Now you see me realizing, oh, I should probably put my sentiment on here before I start sticking things down and then I don't have room for my sentiment. So I actually really love this sentiment, um, sending wishes your way or something like that. It's kind of vague, but it's cheerful, so it can be birthday wishes, or it can be good luck wishes, or it could be happy thoughts type wishes, whatever you want it to be. So now you can see me sticking it down, and the butterfly wiggles a little because it's only attached at one spot, and I really like that. Now I'm attaching just a few sequins to dress up the rest of the card. And actually, you should probably use the heat tool if you're going to do a card this fast, because my craft ink isn't completely dry. But now I have just a few sequins to dress it up, and I'm adding my 3 silver pearls, which are extra shiny from using the embossing powder on them. And I'm just using, a paper piercer to pick them up because they have a glue dot already on the back. So the paper piercer sticks to the glue dot, and then I can use my fingers to place it exactly where I want it. And that's what it looks like. So that is the completed card front before I've attached it to, obviously, the card base, the basic gray card base. And I decided that my butterfly appeared to be a little too unstable, so I rolled up a glue dot and put another one, stuck it in at the bottom. And now I'm adding some liquid glue to the back so that I can stick it to my basic gray card base. And of course I'm off camera again, which I'm not sure why that keeps happening. But as I said, the liquid glue gives you a little bit of time to wiggle it around if it isn't exactly centered. And, I try to make it as centered as possible. But it is handmade, so there's always going to be imperfections. But I think that the recipient still appreciates the effort, regardless. And you can see the sequins still fly around because they're only attached at one point. And that's it. Thank you for joining me. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. And this is a new YouTube channel, so I'd love it if you subscribed. And don't forget to click on the link to my blog, craftsbyhappystamper.com, and follow the hop to the next person. Thank you.